We just adjourned City Council in memory of more than 1,000 people who were murdered this weekend. This weekend, we saw the largest killing of Jews since the Holocaust. For those with friends and family living in Israel, the pain is profound and it is personal. We are seeing the unprovoked, deliberate killing of civilian Jews, men, women, and children, slaughtering young people at a peace concert, raping and slaying families indiscriminately, hurling more than 3,000 rockets with no military objective other than to maim and kill innocent people. We are seeing the taking of children and grandparents as hostages to use as pawns and parading innocents through the streets, burning a child alive and posting it on social media. There are no words that can adequately describe the horrors and depravity that has been on display. If anyone ever doubted that Hamas is a terrorist organization, such doubts should be put to rest by their actions this weekend. Let's not forget Hamas's own charter celebrates a day when its followers will, quote, fight the Jews and kill them until the Jews hide behind rocks and trees. And a charter that states peace is, quote, contrary to the beliefs of the Islamic resistance movement. It angers me greatly to know that there are people and organizations, some groups that are right here in Los Angeles, in our hometown, that have seen this weekend's depravity and defended it. Their latent anti-Semitism is now blatant anti-Semitism. Fortunately, there are other groups, some of who are here today, dedicated to standing up against injustice, no matter who that injustice is targeted toward, no matter where it lies. With us today, we have folks from the Israel Civic Action Network, Dylan Hosier, from the Anti-Defamation League, Jeffrey Abrams, from the American Jewish Committee, Rick Hershaw, from Jewish World Watch, Serena Oberstein, from Jewish Federation, Rachel Wallace, and from Jewish Family Service, Davina Kohang Hadash. I called this press conference today so that the leaders of the city of Los Angeles could speak clearly and unequivocally in solidarity with Israel. That's why we are here today. In recognition of Israel's right to exist as a nation and its right to defend itself from such brutal and unprovoked attacks. Look, this doesn't mean that we like Netanyahu's policies or anything like that. It means that we stand in solidarity with the people of Israel. It means we stand against anti-Semitism, and it means we believe in democracy and peace. The population of all of Israel is a little bit less than the county of Los Angeles. Can you imagine what it would be like if we in LA County were barraged with more than 3,000 rockets and were invaded by ruthless hitmen who parachuted in, came from land, sea, and air, what that would do to us? If this happened, we would fight back and we would hope the world would stand up with us. Thank you for being here today to stand up with Israel, and I especially thank all of my colleagues who are here today. It's incredibly important that we do that. And I want to acknowledge Mayor Bass and our city attorney, Heidi Feldstein-Soto. They wanted to be here as well. They had some conflicts, although they have statements that are printed and available. Now, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, my colleague, our colleague, Councilwoman Katie Yaroslavsky.
Thank you, Councilmember Blumenfield. I think like most people here, I spent the weekend alternating between watching the news and talking to my neighbors, my friends, my family about loved ones in Israel who were murdered or kidnapped at the hands of Hamas, or who are sheltering underground even now, or have been called back to fight. The pain has touched every single one of us, and it is immense. Our sense of isolation, anger, and fear is palpable. I want to speak directly to the Jewish community here in Los Angeles. The city of Los Angeles is committed to doing everything in our power to keep you safe. LAPD has stepped up patrols around synagogues and surrounding neighborhoods and will continue to do so to ensure safety for all of us. When these horrific acts of violence occur, it becomes too easy to retreat to our corners and forget the humanity of the people whose lives have been destroyed. These are human beings, some of them just children, brutally killed in a terrifying instant. As Jewish people, we grow up hearing about the atrocities committed against our people for millennia. Some of us directly from our parents and grandparents who survived the Holocaust. We hear about the evil that would like nothing more than to see us wiped from the face of the earth. And we saw it this weekend in spades. In some ways, it defines our existence as Jews. It also has come to define our solidarity, and from that, our strength. We've been taught to be resilient in the face of hate, to have faith and take comfort in our people's continued survival. But that comfort has been difficult to remember this weekend. I'm reminded that as Jews, we also have an obligation to help repair the world, to see others' humanity, even if ours has been discarded by others, to step closer to each other's pain, even if our instincts tell us to retreat. I want to be clear about something that apparently still needs to be said, though my colleague said it beautifully. Terrorism is never justified, period. There is no moral superiority in barbarically murdering innocent civilians, dragging children from their homes, or kidnapping people to use as bartering chips. We must continue to work toward peace without the further loss of civilian life, and I hope for humanity's sake we achieve that soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I want to call up our council president, Paul Krikorian.
Thank you, Councilmember Blumenfield, Councilmember Yaroslavsky. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to join with you, to grieve with you, to feel the incredible pain that not only the Jewish community is facing today, but everybody in, I think, the civilized world is facing. At the images that we've seen over these last few days of families being ripped apart, being victimized, by innocent people being taken hostage, by the threats that those innocent people will be executed publicly by these terrorist groups, by these Hamas murderers, if they don't get their way. And to have witnessed this, I think all of us felt personally impacted. And in fact, we are. Because whether we are Jewish or not, whether we are Israeli or not, when the world allows this kind of atrocity to go unanswered, we invite the next atrocity. I come from a people who have been victimized by genocide. I come from a people who are hanging on to their culture and to their existence in the face of sometimes incredible, difficult odds and assault. And my people have been recently murdered as well in Nagorno-Karabakh, when we saw the invasion and the ethnic cleansing of that region just a couple of weeks ago. And yet again, when the world turns a blind eye to those sort of atrocities, the next atrocity is almost certainly going to come soon thereafter. And what is happening in Israel right now should not be an issue that we think of as only affecting Israelis or only affecting Jews. It is affecting the very essence of our global humanity. And if we want to live as a civilized world, if we want to ever have an opportunity to achieve peace in this world, then unequivocally and universally, we must stand up in opposition to this kind of terrorist atrocity, calling it what it is. This is not a military incursion. This is cold-blooded murder and crime on the grandest of scales. And Mr. Blumenfield, when you were reminding us of the magnitude of what 1,000 people, more than 1,000 people being murdered over a weekend means, imagine what that means to the state of Israel, which with its relatively tiny population, to have had 1,000 people murdered in a terrorist action would be the equivalent of the United States losing 30,000 people in a terrorist action in a weekend. And how would this country react if that were to happen? So I thank you for giving us an opportunity to stand with you. I hope that all of the people of Los Angeles will heed the call to support our brothers and sisters who are suffering and in pain right now here in Los Angeles and in Israel, and recommit ourselves to stopping this kind of atrocity wherever it occurs, under any circumstances that it occurs, no matter what the justification for it when it occurs anywhere in the world. Thank you.
Thank you. And all my colleagues, just prior we were doing the adjourned in memory. Many of them spoke very eloquently, but I want to give each of my colleagues, each of the elected officials here, a chance to speak if they should desire it. So I'm going to just have you come up to the mic as you would, whoever wants to go first.
Good afternoon. I think, my colleagues, we've all shared our sentiments and we've watched with great horror as parents, as members of our greater Los Angeles community continue to suffer through what we see are these horrific atrocities being committed. It is an assault on humanity, and it must stop. These terrorist acts, they're never justified, and there's only victims. There's always women and children that are the most exploited in these circumstances, families being ripped apart. And so I'm just proud to be here joining with my colleagues to stand up and speak out against these incredible atrocities, to hope that we will finally achieve peace in my lifetime, in my children's lifetime, that no other family should have to suffer the loss or to suffer through the enduring traumas that will result of the acts that we've seen over the course of the weekend and what we continue to see as a result of this ongoing engagement. As Mr. Krikorian said, it is not sadly unique to this one part of the world. We continue to see this evolving or devolving, if you will, in other parts of the world, and we must remain united as a community to fight against these atrocities, to fight and stand up against hate, and to continue to uplift the greatest parts of humanity for a peaceful resolution so that no mother, no child, no family is ever torn apart. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Rodriguez. Next, Councilwoman Tracy Park.
Thank you, Mr. Blumenfield. The gravity of offering remarks under circumstances like this are very heavy on me, as I know thousands of families and constituents in my district are grieving and are scared. Like all of us here, I was absolutely stunned and devastated by the terrorist attacks in Israel over the weekend. Families celebrating high holidays, young people celebrating freedom at a music festival, elderly people, disabled people, children abducted and killed. What happened this weekend will change the course of history and scar an entire generation and beyond. And as we brace for the difficult circumstances ahead, it is imperative that we as a city stand with the thousands and thousands of families here in Los Angeles that have been impacted. I've personally been worried about the escalating acts of hate and anti-Semitism right here in Los Angeles, from offensive flyers and banners to vandalism to the recent shootings in Pico Robertson. These incidents already told us that it was time to come together and stand against hate and extremism. Any group or organization or their affiliates that promote an anti-Israel or anti-Semitic platform must be called out and condemned. And let me tell you unequivocally and clearly what I believe. Israel has the right to exist and to defend itself. I will not offer apologies or make excuses for those who commit acts of terror or ethnic or religious violence, not now, not ever. This attack on Israel was an attack on the United States, on the city of Los Angeles, and on democracy itself. We will never let terrorists win, and we will not be intimidated. I am proud to stand with Israel, its people, and Jewish families across the city of Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. De Leon.
Thank you very much, Bob, for bringing us here together. I stand here today with my colleagues to condemn, without any reservation, the heinous and brazen terrorist attacks on Israel, which have inflicted unspeakable pain and suffering on innocent civilians. Our hearts are incredibly heavy with grief for more than the 1,000 human lives lost and the anguish endured by Israeli families who have been affected by the senseless acts of violence. We stand here shoulder to shoulder in solidarity with our steadfast ally, Israel, in their unwavering commitment to protect their citizens and to defend their homeland. The attacks against Israel represent a grave injustice, and we unequivocally denounce Hamas for such brutal and unjustified acts of terror. The kidnapping of innocent Israelis, including women and children, that have been underscored on numerous occasions here today, is an abhorrent violation of human rights, and we demand the immediate and safe return of all those being held against their will. The use of violence and terror as a means to achieve political gain or goals is unacceptable and counterproductive, leading only to more suffering and despair. These acts of violence only serve to deepen the scars inflicted by centuries of anti-Semitism and persecution against the Jewish people, a history that we must never forget. Today in Los Angeles, we remind the world that the ties between the United States and Israel are rooted in shared values. And we feel this pain as a personal tragedy for the American Jewish community and all those who cherish peace and justice. We pledge our commitment to support for Israel's security, standing rock solid in our commitment to ensuring the safety and well-being of the Israeli people. Let me just say this finally, because I've had an opportunity to actually visit Israel and visit some of the small towns in and around outside of the Gaza Strip. And to actually know that I physically have been to these small towns and villages, and to know that this was not conventional warfare with Hamas vis-a-vis Israel or the people of Israel, but rather this was an actual massacre, is blood-curdling. To know that in Boyle Heights, that the Consul General from Israel has made proactive steps to fortify the relationship between the Latino community, but in particular, Boyle Heights, because of the Breed Street shul that we have, and the Israeli community, and the Jewish Ashkenazi as well as Sephardic community, speaks volumes of the solidarity that we have here today for each and every one of you. Nomás quisiera compartir algunas palabras muy breves en español. Yo quisiera compartir mi más profundo pésame en nombre de los constituyentes de mi distrito número 14, por el simple hecho que existe un lazo sólido y concreto entre el pueblo judío y el pueblo Israel, con los latinos, particularmente el pueblo mexicano, el pueblo centroamericano, en el vecindario con el mayor número de constituyentes que son de migrantes de Boyle Heights, porque también tenemos una sinagoga, un templo también. We express our outrage and we express our solidarity to the Jewish community here in LA, United States, worldwide, but especially in Israel. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. De Leon. Any other colleagues? Mr. John Lee, Councilmember Lee.
You know, as I think it's been extremely disheartening as we've heard the stories and seen the videos that have come out of Israel this last weekend. Too many times in history, people have not spoken up in times of atrocities, and I really appreciate that all of my colleagues have condemned these terrorist attacks and the senseless killing that has happened in Israel. As one of the cities with the largest population of Jewish people outside of Israel, it is incredibly important that we let them know that we stand with them, we stand with the people of Israel, and that they have our support through these incredibly tough times. I think we all have met people through the last couple of days that have family members that they're worried about, family members that they've lost, family members who have been called to active duty, family members that they have not heard from. And it is an incredibly frightening time, and I think it's important, and I appreciate council members for us being here today to show the Jewish people especially of Los Angeles, that you have our unwavering support. Israel has always had an unwavering support for this country, and it's important that we also show that we also have this same type of unwavering support for the country of Israel. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Any additional colleagues? Mr. McCosker.
Thank you very much. I want to thank my colleagues, Bob Blumenfield and Katie Yaroslavsky, for their beautiful, heartfelt words. I'm really moved by everything that everyone has said, and I can't say it any better. Unwavering commitment for the right of Israel to exist, the right to defend itself. But the message that I feel compelled to give right now is actually more deeply personal to people in this room. We have so many advocates, so many folks that have fought so hard over my time knowing you for Israel and for the Jewish people of Los Angeles. I just want to say I'm sorry. I can't imagine what it feels like. I can't imagine. I know how I feel, and if I multiply that beyond measure, that must be how you feel. And I'm just so sorry. And I know that everyone in this room, on both sides of the room, are with you and love you, and we recommit ourselves to peace. Here in Los Angeles, where we have our own issues, and across the world. So thank you. Thank you for this opportunity while we're here doing government and politics to remember sort of the compassion and the humanity of what it is we should be about. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Costa. Mr. Curran Price.
Thank you. I'm just so proud to stand with my colleagues from the council and the community as we stand in solidarity with Israel and the Israeli people. You know, the time for silence and complacency is over. I think that has been well said by my colleagues. It's important to speak up and to speak out. The world must unite in opposition. The world and LA must unite in opposition to these acts of terrorism. And we have to raise our collective outrage about it. As history has shown, the resilience and fortitude of the Jewish people is well documented, and they are able to certainly withstand adversity. But this is at a different level. Again, we pray for peace, we pray for stability for all of those who are affected, especially those families, kids that are suffering here and in Israel. Again, justice and peace will prevail. It's important that we work hard for it. We know that the spirit of Israel is never going to be crushed or erased. And again, it's an opportunity for us to reaffirm our solidarity with them and others who are concerned about creating an environment where we have a peaceful coexistence of all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Price. Mr. Harris Dawson.
Thank you so much. I appreciate all of my comments, my colleagues' comments, and especially Mr. Blumenfield and Ms. Yaroslavsky for pulling us together at this moment. I would say a couple things at this time. It is important for all of us in Los Angeles and all around the world to center the Jewish people, the people of the state of Israel at this moment. At the same time that we center them, as I look around this room and being at Temple on Sunday night and walking the streets of this city, I'm proud that Los Angeles is a place that doesn't allow our neighbors to bear these burdens alone. You look around this room and you see the tears and the griefs on everybody's faces, no matter what corner of the earth they originate from. And that is the beauty of the city and the beauty that we can forge through this extremely difficult moment. Moreover, it calls on all of us to be vigilant, to not allow any safe harbor in any corner of the earth, certainly not any corner of our city, when these issues come up. Just this past weekend, in the heart of South Central, an elected official found a swastika carved in an automobile outside their house. And the elected official is not Jewish, but their chief of staff is Jewish. And the tendency is to say, oh, well, we'll move on to the next thing. And then an event like the one we saw this weekend happens, and we understand how important our vigilance is, how important it is for us to look out for each other, and for how important it is for us to empathize with each other and also reject this use of violence to harm, to scare, to frighten, to terrorize human beings anywhere, but especially in this part of the world. And folks who do that do not get empathy, they do not get sympathy, they do not get understanding from any of us here in the city of Los Angeles. And so we all pledge to stand together and to work with each other through this terrible tragedy towards a brighter day.
Thank you, Mr. Harris Dawson.
Thank you.
Ms. Heather Hutt.
Thank you. You know, this is painful for all of us. Mass atrocities are never justified. And in this situation where you see cowards, because that's what I call them, go to a peace concert or pick up children and senior citizens to make a point, it's unreasonable and it's unconscionable. And I'm happy to stand here with my colleagues, and I really appreciate you, Councilmember Blumenfield and Councilmember Yaslovsky, for making sure that your colleagues stand with you, for making sure that the city of Los Angeles is standing with the Jewish community, so that there's no question about where we are in this place. There's no question about how we feel about terrorism, because that's what this is. And I just want to echo my colleagues and say terrorism never justified. Mass atrocities never justified. Burning children never justified. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to hear now, before we get to the Consul General, from the former City Controller, Ron Galpin.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Blumenfield and Yaroslavsky, and to our Council President. We are here as Israel and the Jewish people face an onslaught of brutality and mayhem not seen since the Holocaust. We are here to condemn the merciless murder of civilians by terrorists. There are too many atrocities to list, but just on my way here was another news item where they found children, babies, having been murdered, and forgive me for being so graphic, decapitated. Let that sink in, for we can never, ever forget this. We are here also because we are angry. We are here to mourn indiscriminate and senseless slaughter. We're here to denounce evil in this city of angels, in this city that has more Israelis than any place outside of Israel. We're here to demand the release safely of scores of people kidnapped by Hamas, including elderly and handicapped and children ripped from their families and dragged literally into captivity. We're here to support Israel because it shares fundamental democratic values. We are here because this fight is our fight. It is a fight for civilization versus chaos. And we are here to express hope and prayers for the wounded physically and emotionally. And I'm here for personal reasons, because I would not be here if it wasn't for the existence of the State of Israel. My father was a Holocaust survivor who escaped Europe in 1943 and lived only because he had a place to go in what became Israel. My mother, who was born there, her parents came after suffering tremendous pogroms in Russia and in Ukraine. And if it wasn't for Israel, she wouldn't have been around, and I wouldn't be around. So for me, this is very, very personal. You know, in the coming days, we are going to see inevitably painful scenes. And it pains me to think how many more civilians are going to die? Let's be honest about it, as Israel has to go in and do what has to be done. But let's also remember that Hamas is not only holding those hostages that we have seen taken from the last couple days. They have been holding their own people hostage for 2 decades now. They are hostages of a brutal regime and one that knows no extent to its evil. So there's perhaps no greater challenge in the world than what we see in the Middle East. And we advocate, we want peace. The Jewish people have faced thousands of years of slaughter and of oppression and anti-Semitism, including to this day. We have survived. We have even thrived. And so it will be in unity and in strength and in hope. Thank you.
Thank you. And our last formal speaker is our Consul General of Israel, Israel Bachar.
Just trying to create some space here. Okay, so you have to. No, better. Thank you for having me here today. The state of Israel is experiencing the darkest day in its modern history. The latest official numbers are staggering. Over 1,000 murdered, including 14 Americans, 2,300 injured, 130 hostages in captivity, women, children, and elderly. The numbers are still rising. The images are horrifying. Hamas has declared war. We must declare our independence from a terrorist regime that seeks to destroy us. Make no mistake, this is not about territory. This is about terrorism. This is the largest massacre of Jews since the Holocaust. Appeasement did not work then. It will not work now. In 1939, we couldn't fight back. In 2023, we can and we will. The status quo in Gaza will not continue. Iran is the murderous architect. Hamas is the barbaric proxy. The Israeli Defense Forces are currently engaged in a large-scale defensive operation to restore peace. Hamas has left us with only difficult choices to restore security. Hamas is to blame for all death and damage incurred in Gaza. This is not about which side accounts more death. This is about which side is in favor of death and which side is in favor of life. Gaza is completely controlled by Hamas. Israel's efforts to allow 20,000 Gazans to enter Israel every day to make a living did not succeed. Hamas does not want their people to pursue life, liberty, or happiness. Hamas wants all of Gaza and all of the Arab world to enslave through their doctrine. And the doctrine is death to Israel, death to America, and death to the Jewish people. Hamas and Iran never wanted peace with Israel, and they never imagined Israel would be at peace with its Arab neighbors. The Abraham Accords prove that regional stability is possible. This devastation will not derail peace with Saudi Arabia or any peace-seeking nation. This devastation will not destroy us. The Israeli people are brave, strong, and determined. Our allies are more important now than ever before. We will need your steadfast support in the long and difficult days ahead of us. We are working closely with our American counterparts to deter Hezbollah aggression, and you can all heard Biden's words this morning, what he said. I would like to thank the United States for its unequivocal support at all levels of government, local, state, and government, and federal. I would like to thank Mayor Abbas for his solidarity with the State of Israel and the Jewish people. Thank you, Councilmember Blumenfield, very much for spearheading today's Solidarity Press event. Thank you to the City Council members here today, for each one of you. And thank you, Los Angeles. Am Israel Chai, people of Israel live.
Thank you, Consul General. So this concludes the formal part of the program, and I know some of my colleagues have to leave, but we have leaders of different organizations. I'm happy to stay here, and any of my colleagues who wish to stay to answer questions, we're happy to do so, but that concludes the formal. The city has been doing security actions. I was working with the police for various vigils that were happening this weekend. They were very responsive to go to the different rallies and temples to give people a sense of security. That's a very real and big concern, because when we went out, I was at multiple vigils this weekend. People are looking over their shoulder because they see what's happening around the world, they see what's happening around the country, and they're worried. But our police has been great so far.
Yeah. You said that there were groups that are making excuses for what happened over the weekend. And could you tell me any?
Well, I have screenshots from organizations, People's City Council, that literally said from the river to the sea, they stand in solidarity with the Palestinians. When I read that, that is advocating for genocide. When you say the river to the sea, that's code word, and it's not even very well encoded. That means they're in solidarity with the folks who want to wipe out all of Israel. So that's the kind of thing I mean. And I saw a number of other organizations put out similar statements, and I was disgusted by it.
Well, one of those groups is Democratic Socialists of America. USA chapters from California to the East Coast have actually repeated the message from the river to the sea. You have colleagues who are members of the DSA. Have you talked to them about it?
I have not talked to colleagues directly about the quote of organization. People are endorsed by lots of organizations. That doesn't mean that they have the beliefs of those organizations. So I am an optimist, and I think the best of my colleagues, and I know the good in them, and all of my colleagues were participated today in our Adjourn in Memory. So I don't want to besmirch anyone because an organization that may have endorsed them has that horrible, disgusting words on their website. That doesn't besmirch every person.
Do you get their numbers?
Again, I'm not going to get into the details of today is about being in solidarity with showing the city's solidarity with Israel. Individuals we can talk about at a different point, and I've been spending a lot of time working with folks, educating people, and I know a lot of people have been doing that. This is all happening in real time, so that's the story there. Yeah.
Questions for Mr. Bachar?
Please. Sure.
What words do you have for Jewish people who are here or watching what is happening from afar?
First of all, a lot of gratitude and say thank you for outpouring of love to Israel. They are donating money. They are really calling us day and night, whatever they can do to help to Israel. I met some people yesterday in a vigil that their sons and daughters are in the IDF. There are Americans who are serving the southern border in the IDF right now. So all we can say now it's thank you very much for the warm support. And my second sentence for them, it is going to be long, costly, and we will need a lot of time to win this war. We will win it in the end, but it was going to take time. And what I'm asking all the American people and the Jewish community, stay with us and stay the course.
And did you mention that there are some people, some young people maybe that are going there to fight?
Yeah, definitely. There are American citizens who are enlisted to the IDF Army, with dual citizenship, and many of them currently are or flying to Israel to serve in the IDF. They're enlisted, and some of them already on the ground. Definitely.
How do you feel about that?
I think American and Israelis are one family, and I can tell you personally, my wife, she's American. She was born here in California. We met in New York, and she moved to Israel with me. So I think we are one big family, Israelis and Americans, and you cannot really separate sometimes the two nationalities or the two identities. So I feel here very much at home, and Israel very much feels the Americans supported back at home. So keep the course with us.
And what, one more question.
Sure.
What help are you hoping that the United States will provide?
I think President Biden sent something very important today, whoever picked it up. His strong words were to deter Iran and Hezbollah in getting into the war. He spoke about the battleships that are entering to the eastern side of the Mediterranean Sea. It's a strong signal from America, and he say one word, don't. So he point a finger, everybody in the region understand what he's saying. So that's the greatest support we can get from America right now, to contain the war only to our southern border and not expanding to the northern border. It's extremely important, less casualties, less people hurt. That's what we want to end up the war with.
And you address the audience in your language for the people that have
In Hebrew?
Yeah. For the people of the community. Maybe a few words.
For the Jewish people or for the Israeli people? I want to say to the Israeli people, first of all, חזק חזק ונתחזק, אנחנו נהיה חזקים, ארצות הברית לצידנו, הקהילה הישראלית והקהילה האמריקאית וגם הקהילה היהודית האמריקאית תומכת בנו בצורה מאוד מאוד נחושה וברורה. יש פרץ של אהבה ותמיכה ועזרה, ואנשים טסים לארץ כדי לעזור ולתמוך, גם פיננסית וגם מבחינה צבאית. אנשים תומכים ומתקשרים. אנחנו מרגישים שהקשר הוא הדוק, אמיתי, וממש אנשים יוצאים מגדרם כדי לעזור למדינת ישראל, וזה חשוב לנו מאוד. תודה רבה.
If I can.
Please.
My name is Jeffrey Abrams. I'm the Regional Director of ADL Los Angeles, and I want to briefly address three quick questions. One, what can the U.S. do right now? First is for the Senate to confirm Jack Lew as an ambassador to Israel. We need an ambassador to Israel right now. Secondly, to rearm Israel with missiles and interceptors for the Iron Dome program. They need those tangible things. Secondly, what we saw today was extraordinary leadership from our city. Leadership from the Councilmember Blumenfield and bringing us here, and Yaroslavsky, thank you both. Love, empathy. This is from our leadership. But to answer a question that was directed of what are we concerned in the coming days, weeks, and months as Israel responds, we're concerned about protests. We're concerned about the tide turning against Israel. And so what we need is every Los Angelino who cares, is of good grace, to support the Israeli people during this time. It's unequivocal. It's clear. We saw evil. We saw atrocities. We saw massacres. The people of Israel, the Jewish community here in Los Angeles, needs the support of every Los Angelino. Thank you.
Your name again, please.
My name is Jeffrey Abrams. I'm the Regional Director of ADL Los Angeles.
Please, go ahead. ADL Anti-Defamation League.
I just want to echo my dear colleague Jeff Abrams. My name is Rick Hershout. I'm the Los Angeles Director of American Jewish Committee. To have stood up here over the last half hour and try to keep composure, I wanted both to cry and to applaud. The leadership, the heart, the seamless connection between Los Angeles and Israel. It is love, it is friendship, it is adoration, it is mutual respect, it is eternal. And I want to make very clear that what each of you report this evening and through the next several days doesn't just reach hearts and minds here in LA. It's actually heard and seen and felt in Israel. Some of your actual broadcasts will be rebroadcast in Israel. And for a country and a people that is reeling from the gut punch, from the terror, from the fog of the incomprehensible and unimaginable, it matters. It makes a difference to raise our voices as loudly and as often as we possibly can. Stay the course. In the words of our new and remarkable Consul General, stay the course. Am Yisrael Chai.